So, um, yeah, thanks, Maggie, for the generous introduction. Very happy to be speaking today to all of you about platform engineering and the VMO, the Value Management Office. Um, yeah, and for the last couple of years, I've been working at a client on a platform engineering initiative. We've seen a lot of great things, some good things, some not so good things. And I think I have a lot of lessons that have been learned that I can share with you so that if any of you are engaged in anything similar, you can take these lessons and use them to your benefit. So let's first uh, talk a little bit about platform engineering. So why focus on that at all? Why focus on platform engineering? Well, according to many recent sources, specifically from Gartner, around 80% of all enterprises either already have a dedicated platform engineering team or soon will. Um, and with such a heavy focus on platform engineering, uh, along with that comes a lot of money, time, resources invested into these platform engineering initiatives. And one of the reasons why so many organizations would invest so much in it is because, according to some other studies, it can give them a significant lift. So companies who have invested in platform engineering say that already they can see a 30 to 40% faster developer onboarding and significantly reduced cognitive load among their development teams. And the whole notion of cognitive load is something I will be focusing on soon. But as you can see, uh, it is becoming a more and more prevalent thing found across software development organizations all over the world with really probably billions of dollars invested in it. So knowing that this is super important, if you are not familiar with what platform engineering is, you're probably wondering, well, what is platform engineering? So here, in fact, are some of the key elements of platform engineering. And at its most basic, platform engineering is there to build internal platforms that enable fast, secure, and compliant delivery. And what does that mean? So first off, when you are doing platform engineering in an organization, you need to engage a lot of teams who are building out the software that your organization is going to be delivering. And you need to make sure that they have the right environment. They can set it up lickety split in a matter of minutes or at most a couple of hours, that it's fully self-service, that they can get off the ground and start running super quickly, developing their software in a way that is comfortable to them, suitable for their needs. And once they are able to get that initial set of steps going, then it's important that they're able to start tying into all the pipelines of the organization. So that's when CI/CD comes into the equation. CI/CD is continuous integration, continuous delivery or deployment, and really it should be all automated, or at least as automated as possible. And part of that automation, a large part of the automation, is ensuring that there is a high degree of automated testing that is built into these pipelines, that along with that are lots of different quality gates, and that these CI/CD pipeline tools are providing very little friction to these teams so that they can get a lot of rapid feedback. In essence, you want to make sure that there is a great deal of fidelity between where a developer is developing their code and the environments where that code will be landing, whether it's in some sort of an integration environment, UAT, pre-prod performance, and eventually production itself. the more automation that is built into this with those quality gates, the more you can embed a high degree of governance and controls into your pipelines. Uh, a lot of this is what some would refer to as policy as code. And this level of automation, built-in governance, allows the promotion of any application that has passed the quality gates to automatically get promoted to the next higher environment. This would then obviate the need for a lot of um, manual steps, meetings that are honestly just there to delay the process. So architecture review boards, change control boards, a lot of the things that happen on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis in some organizations become entirely unnecessary because the controls that are really part of those meetings get built into the pipelines and into the governance of these automated pipelines. And so then finally, what we want to make sure is part of platform engineering is a set of reusable services, some standardized components that are available to everyone across the organization. And when we have these reusable services, then what we hope to achieve is a lot of reduced waste. Okay, so um, I mentioned a couple of minutes ago that I would be speaking about cognitive load, and this is where I start preaching from this book called Team Topology. It's one of my favorite books ever from the authors Matthew Skelton and Emmanuel Pais. It's a book that they wrote a few years ago, and it's been very influential in the industry. They identified four different types of teams in software engineering organizations that when they're in place and they are situated properly relative to each other, then there can be a great deal of fast flow of value out to customers. Now, primarily, what I want to speak to today are these two that are now highlighted, the platform teams, of course, and the stream aligned teams. Now, stream aligned teams are the teams that we are most often talking about. They're the ones that are most directly aligned to customers and are trying to figure out what the customers of an organization are going to want. And really, what we want to be able to do in any company, in any enterprise, is to make sure that these teams are able to focus on delivering value to these teams or to the customers that they're trying to please, and reduce their cognitive load so that they don't have to pay attention to a lot of the other things. Now, a long time ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, when I started doing software development, uh, I and my teams would often do all of the stuff that you see here. We would be developing the platforms. We would be trying to figure out what testing tools we would be working on. We would be writing the test harnesses, all of the automation. If there was any governance that needed to be embedded in it, we would do that ourselves too. And it really took a lot of time away from us delivering value to our customers. So really it was a breath of fresh air to read this in this book, Team Topologies, to understand that really where enterprises needed to go and focus was to alleviate that from the stream-aligned teams and stand up teams like a platform team that would be there to build out the platform, the infrastructure, the tooling, the governance, so that they didn't have to worry about and they could focus on delivering value. Okay, so who is involved in platform engineering? Now, when I start talking about this, of course, and really uh, focus on things like infrastructure and infrastructure as code and pipelines and CI/CD and automated testing, you would think that the platform team is really all about engineering And obviously, primarily it is, but it's definitely not just for the engineers. Um, and where I'm working with my client, the team that is focused most closely day in and day out on it is not very big. Maybe it should be bigger. That's a conversation for another day with the client. Um, but really, we have tentacles that spread all across the organization, as I'm sure you would find in any organization that has a platform team. So beyond the platform team itself, of course, there are the application teams. Anyone we're trying to onboard to the platform, they're going to be the users of it. They're going to be probably the most immediate stakeholders. And so we need to understand what their needs are. Of course, when we're talking about governance and controls, we need to make sure that security and compliance become a part of the conversation and that they are there to help define the guardrails. Certainly, if we're going to be engaging in automated promotion of applications from one environment to another, you don't want to let things through that haven't been blessed by security and compliance, right? We want to make sure that whatever is being delivered is suitable for the product and the business side of the house. They're going to be there to make sure that they're helping to drive the platform priorities. And then finally, the glue that is there to hold it all together would be the VMO, Agile coaches. They're there to make sure that we are connecting strategy to execution. Okay, because we want to make sure in the end that our success is measured by adoption and satisfaction. And we're going to rely on the VMO to make sure that that is a large part of the radar, the overall vision and the strategy to ensure that we're not just building something that the engineers on the platform team are happy with, but that everyone, all of these stakeholders listed here are also satisfied. Okay? So let's start talking about the VMO itself, the Value Management Office. And of course, there are people in the audience who are super familiar with this. In fact, Sanjeev, among others, literally wrote the book on this. So I will be summarizing this for all of you who are not super familiar with it. But in essence, the Agile VMO is a cross-organization, cross-hierarchy team. You can see at the middle of this diagram, in the center of this diagram, this is really where the VMO is sitting. We want to make sure that you have an executive action team, an EAT, that is you know, they're representing the business and executives, and they're going to be there to make sure that the strategy and the vision of the organization and therefore this platform team are properly articulated and understood. And they are going to be working closely with the Agile VMO to ensure that everyone understands that. And then on the other side of this, the bottom part of the hourglass would be a team of teams that are aligned with each other. That would include a lot of the stakeholders I mentioned on the previous slide. So it would not just be the platform team, which, by the way, I think many platform teams are a team of teams. That is what I have here at my client here. And so when when the team of teams, the platform, our onboarding customers, when we meet, we would need to make sure that we are, with the help of the Agile VMO, understanding what that strategic direction is and aligning all of our work that is going to be prioritized to make sure that we are going to be working on the highest value stuff that is going to be satisfying the strategic direction of the enterprise. And so really this is going to be a key component of everything here. I think one of the uh, missteps that I see in a lot of organizations that are doing platform engineering is that they are turning it over to the engineers to design some sort of a platform, and those folks are driving very technical conversations that aren't as aligned with the strategic direction of the enterprise as they should be. And so what winds up being handed over to the rest of the organization really isn't as useful and adoptable as it should be. So really the VMO plays a very important part in understanding how to align everyone to the mission of the enterprise. Okay, so how would the VMO do that? How would VMO thinking influence the platform engineering work? And there are lots of tools that are available. You could, for example, do some value stream mapping, which I would highly recommend. It's probably a topic for another day. For those of you who are unfamiliar, it is incredibly important to understand all the steps of a process, you know, especially for how a team would move one line of code from a dev machine all the way to production, what all the steps are, where the bottlenecks are, how long that would take. A VMO could help with that. There are lots of different flow metrics, and I'll be focusing a lot more on that in a little bit, that can help the entire enterprise appreciate uh, where the investments should go and whether those investments were good investments. Um, there is a lot that a VMO can do to help everyone understand the importance of the lean governance and how to embed that in the pipelines to the satisfaction of everyone so that the automated promotions are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And then finally, it's important for the VMO to be able to articulate to everyone that these internal platforms are products themselves. And the VMO can support with coaching, governance, and alignment to make sure that these are strategic value streams. All right. Because in the end, it is less about oversight and more about enablement, ensuring that the strategies and the priorities and delivery are always connected in service of delivering enterprise value. All right. So I know in a lot of these audiences uh, that we speak to, metrics and measurements are extremely important. And I share that interest with you. There are lots of ways to measure platform engineering and lots of ways that the VMO can help with that to make sure that the platform engineering team is investing the right energy in the right places, because it is a significant investment that an enterprise needs to make to ensure that the platform is built out right. And the really two types of measures that I'll be focusing on are focused on uh, doing some economic prioritization so that when everyone is planning, especially quarterly and more long-range planning, that the investments are going to the places that are going to be delivering the biggest bang for the buck. And then afterwards, you need to have some metrics to measure whether you got the right return on investment. Okay, so um, I'm sure many of you are familiar with economic prioritization. Sometimes it's called WSJF or weighted shortest job first. For those of you who are not familiar with it, the idea is to, again, make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for the buck. And how do you do that? You make sure that you understand the business value that each of your features can promise to deliver. And then you divide that by the level of effort. So you can see in this particular table, we have some what we would consider our numerators. These are going to be the ones right here that are going to be delivering the business value. Uh, I'll get to that in a little bit. And then we would divide what the sum of these values is by a level of effort to figure out what the economic prioritization score, the highest numbers win. Okay. Um, the details of this are not super important, but what I would like to focus on is what we have decided where I am working on what that numerator should be, how we determine business value for our features. And you can see along the left-hand side is a sample of some potential features we might have coming into a PI. So some built-in NFR compliance checks or non-functional requirements, automated promotion of release candidates, cloud native environments as a service, use of standard automated testing tools, self-service onboarding, provisioning, and unified observability and monitoring. These are, I think, pretty standard features that just about any platform engineering team would work on, especially early on. Now, for us, and I think in many enterprises, uh, a platform engineering team might be replacing an already existing platform. And in fact, that is what is going on where I work as a consultant. And so, what we decided was really important for being able to determine business value was not just whether we were going to be reducing friction, improving velocity, improving predictability, which would be very standard ways to figure out some business value, but also if we were making sure that we were building out an adequate replacement for what people in the organization already have, you know, basically being foundational, plus offering something that is a differentiator from the existing platform. Our reasoning, of course, is that uh, they're not likely to transition to this new platform if it doesn't at least offer what they already have. Um, so if it's going to be a downgrade, they definitely don't want to transition to it. But it also wouldn't make sense if they're not going to get something better. So we want to make sure all along the way that we are at least equal to them and then also providing something better, which is why we decided to have these five factors as our numerator in determining economic prioritization. And so we've had conversations about this, and this is how we have prioritized all the features coming into our PIs or our quarters. Okay, and you can see that in this hypothetical chart, there's one right here, the automated promotion of release candidates has very high business value because it's a relatively low level of effort. It wins the economic prioritization battle and would be the highest priority feature for us to focus on. On the flip side, if you're doing your math, you might also notice that the cloud native environments as a service has the same level of business value. These numbers add up to be the same, but because that level of effort is really big, it winds up being the least important and the lowest priority feature coming in. Now, what has happened in reality is when we've had conversations like this, guided by the VMO, we have acknowledged, well, that's a super high value feature right there. What can we do to make that feature smaller so that it delivers greater economic value, at least on par with something like the automated promotion of release candidates? And those conversations have been instrumental in guiding the platform engineering team to really be able to explain to stakeholders the value so that we can deliver pretty much the same value for lower effort and get features like this prioritized higher. Okay. I think that the VMO plays a really important part in driving those conversations as planning is emerging so that we invest on the right things for these strategic initiatives. And then on the other side, I think it's important to tie all of the measures of something like platform engineering to some industry standard like DORA. For those of you who are not familiar, DORA is something that emerged from a really wonderful book by Dr. Nicole Forsgren and Jez Humble and Gene Kim called Accelerate. Uh, the DORA metrics then were adopted by Google and became an industry standard. And the four primary measures for measuring the maturity of any DevOps organization, and that's what the DO and DORA stands for, is DevOps, are these four factors. So lead time for changes, from the time that an organization knows about a feature being of value to a customer until it's actually delivered, what is that lead time? How frequently are we deploying into production environments? When a problem is discovered, what is the mean time to restore, or the MTTR? And what is the change failure rate? When something does get deployed, um, is is the quality really high, or do we have to always try to fix failures? And what is the frequency of that? So what I would imagine would be a very helpful scorecard for a VMO to be able to put together from working with a platform engineering team is, based on some of these features that we prioritized into a PI, after they've been delivered, what impact did they have on our DORA metrics? Were we able to reduce the lead time for changes? Did our deployment frequency improve? How about MTTR, change failure rate? And it would be very nice if we could highlight all these improvements so that at a glance you can communicate to your executive action team or anyone else who is a business stakeholder that the investments that were made strategically have actually paid off. We have been able to produce a platform that has a high level of adoption, great satisfaction for our onboarding teams, but even beyond that, um, we're able to deploy safely and frequently and deliver actual business value to our external customers. Okay. So um, all of this, I think, should uh, bring about some sort of a virtuous cycle. And I would hope that as a VMO works with a platform engineering team, that you would see them embedded in every step of this process. So at identification, you would expect a VMO to help the platform engineering team with gathering what the enterprise pain points are and aligning the platform goals with business outcomes to ensure that there is visibility of all the stakeholders' needs. And then from there, that the right prioritization happens to make sure that you're applying some economic prioritization, that you're balancing some short-term wins with some strategic investments. Keep in mind that some of the things that a platform engineering team is implementing are really hard. And there are a lot of things that might require some intense and kind of deep research. So those things that might have a longer tail to them need to be balanced against some of those short-term wins. And it's important for everyone to be talking amongst each other to make sure that those things are understood, so you can get the short-term wins with those strategic investments and have those facilitated trade-off discussions. When it comes to delivery, make sure that you are ensuring that there is alignment with enterprise roadmaps, that you're monitoring value delivery and cadence, and you support the cross-team coordination. It's not uncommon in the absence of something like a VMO for a platform engineering team to have a bunch of features that are 80 or 90% done, but nothing's quite done. So a VMO can be instrumental in making sure that everyone understands what the definition of done is, and that you don't have too much work in progress, too much WIP, and you are continuously delivering a high degree of value to your customers on a regular cadence. And then, of course, there's the measurement. You want to make sure that you're defining those KPIs and success criteria up front, that you're tracking something like the DORA metrics, There's some other measurements, of course, that you could choose to track. Um, but that in the end, you're validating your business outcomes against those expectations. And, if you are doing something like economic prioritization, be consistent about that. Think about what it is that you're going to value in your prioritization. You articulate that up front, and that you measure yourself against what you valued in your business value, how you're going to deliver that. And then finally, when it comes time to reinvest and start that virtuous cycle again, you make sure that you double down on the features with some proven value. If you need to reallocate people toward the high ROI areas, you do that, and you foster that continuous improvement mindset. Have those uh, program-wide retrospectives, quarterly and even more frequently. Um, have some blameless postmortems after deployments to make sure that you understand what went well, what didn't go well, what was part of the platform that needs to be ironed out, and make sure that that gets worked into your delivery cycle, highly prioritized. These are all the things that are important in platform engineering, and it's certainly where a VMO can help provide focus to make sure that you're connecting that strategy to delivery. Okay, so bringing it all together, um, and I hope I leave enough time for questions. Uh, in essence, platform engineering is there to build a really great foundation upon which the rest of the organization can deliver value to their customers. You want to make sure that the platform engineering team is there to reduce the cognitive load of those stream-aligned teams, and that they are able to continuously deliver value themselves. The VMO is really there to ensure there's alignment, accountability, and measurable value. And together, platform engineering and VMO can make sure that the technology and the strategy are there to realize those enterprise outcomes. Um, the bottom line is that platform engineering is a strategic value driver. It's not just about the technology, and the VMO is the bridge to proving out and sustaining enterprise value.